The story I am sharing today is a very sad and heartbreaking love story. A movie has been made about this story and a book has been written about it. However, the story begins in 1986. A young and successful businesswoman from Switzerland came to Kenya for a vacation with her boyfriend, but she fell in love with a Samburu Warrior. For the sake of love, she gave up everything and settled in a hut deep in the African wilderness. However, their love story ended sadly. What happened next shocked everyone. So in this video, I will tell you what made her abandon her entire life for a man she had just met. What does their 35-year-old daughter look like today? And what happened that caused their love story to end so sadly? Watch the full video to find out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. This is Corinne Hofmann, 26 years old at the time. She was born on June 4th, 1960, in Frauenfeld, Switzerland, and was raised in a middle-class family. From an early age, she was known for being independent, ambitious, and determined to build a successful life for herself. By her mid-20s, Corinne was living a comfortable and successful life in Switzerland. She owned a thriving bridal fashion business and had worked hard to achieve financial independence. Her career was flourishing. She enjoyed the conveniences of modern European life, and she was in a long-term relationship with her fiancé, Marco. From the outside, her life seemed perfectly fine. She had financial stability, a successful business, and a future that many people would have envied. However, despite her success, there was a part of her that longed for adventure and experiences beyond the predictable routines of everyday life. Then, in 1986, seeking adventure and a break from the routines of everyday life, Corinne travelled to Kenya with her fiancé, Marco. The trip was intended to be a relaxing holiday, an opportunity to experience a different culture and enjoy the country's beautiful coastline before returning home to Switzerland. After a long flight from Europe, they eventually arrived in Mombasa, Kenya's second largest city and one of East Africa's most famous tourist destinations. Located along the Indian Ocean, Mombasa has become a popular getaway for European travellers seeking sunshine, exotic landscapes, and a temporary escape from their daily lives. The story is part of a wider pattern that has been observed along Kenya's coast for decades. Since the 1970s and 1980s, thousands of European tourists have travelled to destinations such as Mombasa, Malindi, Diani Beach, and Watamu. While many come simply for holidays, others are drawn by something more personal. Many older European women, particularly from countries such as Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and the United Kingdom, have travelled to Kenya seeking romance, companionship, adventure, or relationships with younger local men. These relationships often develop in tourist areas where local men work as beach operators, tour guides, entertainers, or performers who regularly interact with foreign visitors. Reports and studies over the years have described this phenomenon as romance tourism or female sex tourism, where significant economic differences often play a role. I made a full documentary on this topic in detail. If you're interested in learning more, be sure to check the link in the description after this video. For some young men living in coastal regions or pastoral communities, such as the Maasai and Samburu, relationships with foreign women can represent opportunities for financial support, travel, or a better future for themselves and their families. However, Corinne's story was different. She had not travelled to Kenya looking for romance. She had not travelled there searching for a new relationship. In fact, she arrived with her fiancé and expected to return home with him. They enjoyed their vacation and learned a lot about Kenyan culture. One day, they accidentally met warriors from the Samburu tribe. Among them was a warrior named Lketinga. He was the tallest, strongest, and handsomest. Corinne thought a lot about him and soon fell in love. It seemed kinda crazy. What could they have in common? They were people from different worlds. She is a wealthy girl who is used to comfort. He is a warrior from a wild African tribe. All this guy had was a red loincloth, some goats, and a jungle hut. However, Corinne didn't care. She fell in love so much that she was ready to give up her whole past life. the girl decided to break up with her boyfriend and sell her store in Switzerland. She sought out Lketinga and confessed her feelings to him. Through Lketinga, Corinne discovered a world she had never seen before. Everything about the Samburu was vastly different from the modern European lifestyle she knew. The Samburu are a proud, semi-nomadic pastoralist people who live primarily in the arid regions of northern Kenya. Closely related to the Maasai, they have preserved many of their traditional customs, despite the rapid modernization taking place across much of Africa. They are famous for their colorful clothing, elaborate beadwork, warrior traditions, and deep connection to their livestock. For the Samburu, cattle, goats, and camels are far more than possessions. They represent wealth, social status, and survival itself. Young Samburu men pass through different stages of life before becoming respected elders. One of the most admired stages is that of the warrior, known for courage, endurance, and protecting the community. Warriors often wear bright red clothing, carry spears, and participate in traditional ceremonies and dances that have been practiced for generations. As Corinne spent more time with Lketinga, she became fascinated by Samburu culture and their way of life. Everything felt different. The customs, the language, the food, and even the rhythm of daily life seemed worlds apart from the Switzerland she had left behind. What initially began as curiosity soon developed into something much deeper. After returning to Switzerland, Corinne found it impossible to forget Lketinga. The image of the tall Samburu warrior remained fixed in her mind. Day after day, she thought about him. The comfortable life she had spent years building suddenly felt less exciting than the memories she had brought home from Kenya. Most people assumed the feelings would fade with time. Instead, they grew stronger. Eventually, Corinne made a decision that shocked her family and friends. She ended her relationship with her fiancé.
Ich komm nicht mit.
Sold her successful bridal business and left behind the life she had worked so hard to build in Switzerland. Then she returned to Kenya. This time, she wasn't coming back as a tourist. She was coming back for Lketinga, and soon she would follow him into the remote Samburu region of northern Kenya, where she would begin a completely new life in a world far removed from everything she had ever known. The African could not resist the beautiful foreigner, and they spent the night together. But he could not even think that this girl could become his wife. She seemed too strange and incomprehensible to him. In addition, he did not know who her parents were, and in Africa, this is of great importance. But Corinne was able to charm his family and convince him to marry. They officially became husband and wife, and also celebrated the ceremony according to the rules of the Samburu people. Unlike the lavish weddings Corinne had been accustomed to in Europe, their union was celebrated according to local traditions that had been passed down through generations. Family members and villagers gathered to celebrate the occasion with singing, dancing, and blessings from community elders. Traditional ceremonies involved colourful beadwork, ceremonial clothing, livestock exchanges, and communal feasting. As part of Samburu custom, the bride joined the husband's community and became part of his family's way of life. Because in traditional Samburu culture, marriage is not usually based solely on romantic love in the way many Western societies understand it. Instead, marriage is often viewed as a bond between families and communities. Livestock plays a central role in the process, and a groom is typically expected to provide a bride price in cattle, goats, or other animals. Wealth, status, and family relationships are closely connected to these traditions. Like the Maasai, the Samburu have historically practiced polygamy, and family structures often differ significantly from those found in Europe. Women traditionally take responsibility for many household duties, including collecting water, caring for children, preparing food, and maintaining the family home. Life revolves around the community, livestock, and survival in the harsh environment of northern Kenya. For Corinne, this was a completely different world from the one she had left behind in Switzerland. Gone were the modern conveniences, comfortable apartments, supermarkets, and reliable infrastructure she had always known. Instead, she found herself living in a small mud hut with no electricity, no running water, and very few of the comforts she once considered normal. Daily life revolved around basic survival. She had to go to the toilet in the wild jungle far from the village and wash herself from a bucket. There was no proper food and medicine. She learned to live as a Samburu woman, fetching wood and water, cooking over open fires. Yet despite the hardships, Corinne remained determined to make the relationship work. She believed that love could overcome cultural differences, language barriers, and even the enormous distance between the world she had left behind and the one she now called home. But as the months passed, reality slowly began to replace the fantasy. From the first days after marriage, the couple began to have disagreements. Lketinga was jealous of his wife and made scandals even if she smiled at other men. They did not understand each other because they grew up in different cultures. The cultural differences that once seemed exciting started creating tensions neither of them had anticipated. And what had begun as a passionate love story was about to face its greatest challenges. Despite the hardships, Corinne remained committed to the relationship. She had left behind her successful business, her family, and her comfortable life in Switzerland. She believed that every sacrifice would eventually be worth it. Over time, the couple's relationship grew stronger, and Corinne became pregnant. The news brought excitement and hope for the future. In 1989, she gave birth to a daughter, whom they named Leparmorijo. For a brief moment, it seemed as though everything was finally falling into place. The arrival of their daughter gave them a shared purpose and strengthened the bond between them. Corinne adored her child and embraced motherhood, while Lketinga was proud to become a father. However, beneath the surface, deeper problems were beginning to emerge. As time passed, Lketinga became increasingly jealous and suspicious. At first, Corinne dismissed it as insecurity or cultural misunderstanding, but the behaviour gradually intensified. He often questioned where she had been, who she had spoken to, and why certain people interacted with her. Simple conversations with other men could trigger arguments. Sometimes his suspicions seemed completely irrational. The African warrior is used to the fact that the man is the head of the family. Therefore, it annoyed him when Corinne opened her small shop in the village to sell basic goods and manage everything there herself. The real problem was that both of them viewed relationships through very different cultural lenses. Corinne had been raised in a society that valued independence and personal freedom. Lketinga had grown up in a traditional Samburu community where expectations regarding gender roles and relationships were very different. Despite everything, they lived together for 4 years. In this marriage, they had a daughter. With each passing day, Corinne found it increasingly difficult to put up with life in the African tribe. She learned that the Samburu practiced female circumcision, a brutal procedure in which little girls' genitals are cut off. In all developed countries, this barbaric practice is strictly prohibited. Lketinga believed that their daughter should also undergo this ceremony, but Corinne was categorically against it. Also, according to the rules of the tribe, she had to give her daughter as a servant to her husband's mother, and Lketinga could marry several times in order to have many children. Corinne absolutely couldn't put up with it too. Lketinga increasingly gave her scandals because of jealousy, possibly a side effect of his addiction to the herbs, and once he even stated that their daughter was from another man. It was increasingly difficult for a woman to put up with such a life. She was exhausted by constant accusations. Therefore, one day she decided to leave the tribe with her daughter. In 1990, after years of hardship, illness and conflict, she made the most painful decision of her life. She left Kenya. Taking her young daughter Leparmorijo with her, Corinne returned to Switzerland. The relationship was over. The dream she had sacrificed everything for had come to an end. Returning home was not easy. She had left Switzerland believing she would never come back. Now she was forced to rebuild her life from the ground up. However, the extraordinary experiences she had lived through would not remain private for long. Years later, Corinne decided to tell her story. In 1998, she published a memoir titled The White Masai, documenting her relationship with Lketinga and her years living among the Samburu people in Kenya. The book became an international bestseller and was translated into 30 languages. Since its first publication, over 4 million copies have been sold around the world. Readers around the world were captivated by the story of a European woman who abandoned everything for love and moved into a remote African village. The success of the book eventually led to a film adaptation. In 2005, The White Masai was released as a feature film, introducing Corinne's story to an even larger global audience. The woman wrote several more books and became very popular and wealthy. Today, Corinne Hofmann is 63 years old, and her daughter Napirai is 35 years old. The girl is so beautiful. Very little is known about her life. We only know that she grew up in Switzerland, studied at college, and only visited her father's tribe when she was over 20 years old. Corinne allowed her daughter to go on a trip and see her father only after the age of majority, as she was afraid that her father might not let her go back. Despite past grievances, everyone was happy to see each other again. All these years, Corinne helped financially ex-husband and his entire family. However, she could not return to him, as she realized that they were too different to be together. And recently, she found a new love. Her man is European, and together they travel a lot. However, the woman never forgot her first love, a Samburu warrior, Lketinga. Corinne Hofmann risked everything for a dream. She gave up comfort for adventure, security for uncertainty, and familiarity for the unknown. In the end, she found both the beauty and the pain that often accompany such choices. Today, decades later, her story continues to fascinate people around the world because it forces us to ask a difficult question. How far would you go for love? And if you had the chance to do it all again, would you make the same choice? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to share your thoughts with me, to click like and to subscribe. See you next time.